building in front of the room where the Judiciary Committee will be meeting to discuss a bill which would allow comprehensive background checks for gun owners. As you can see behind me are about 200 student organizers with March for Our Lives. These teenagers are here to say we want very basic gun safety, not just to be safe in our schools, but to be safe in our churches and our movie theaters and our communities. March for Our Lives is an organization started by the Parkland High School students after a 10-minute school shooting killed 17 individuals in Florida.
Moving into the hallway, and that was my stop. You were supposed to set up the script. If you want to walk around, you can. But that's different than I thought it was.
So, do you want to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yes, my name is Linnea Stanton, and I'm one of the regional directors for March for Our Lives.
Awesome. How long have you, are you from Florida?
No, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and so I helped organize the march that took place on March 24th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been involved with the organization as soon as it started.
So can you tell our viewers a little bit about what's going to be going on in this committee meeting?
So this committee meeting is generally just about a hearing about gun violence and the ways that it's impacted America. The last hearing hasn't happened in 2008, or it happened 8 years ago. And so obviously we know that there's been a ton of gun violence that has happened every single day since then. And so hopefully the hearing is just going to be to discuss in ways in which we can make America safer from the gun violence that impacts almost 100 people on a daily basis.
What can you tell people about how to get involved?
How to get involved, I would say the easiest is to go to our website or on Twitter and Facebook or Instagram. We're all over social media, and the easiest way is to find those social medias, find out what is going on in your area. We have a ton of really awesome and great local chapters that are doing a lot of grassroots activism on the local level, and that's where we need work. That's where we need to get the work done.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much.
The activists here are predominantly young, but there are also a lot of older activists as well. We have a couple women who are here representing their sons that were shot, one in his home, one in his school. We have a trauma surgeon here to testify about the effects of gun violence and the extent to which an assault rifle really does kill to an inhumane extent, and in a way that your average citizen just simply doesn't need access to, specifically if they have a history of violence or mental health issues. Do you want... Yeah. So, you're with March for Our Lives DC?
Yes, I'm the communications director for March for Our Lives DC.
Okay, are you a student?
Yes, I'm at GW University.
Awesome. So what can you tell us about March for Our Lives DC?
So March for Our Lives DC is helping to bring together the student groups at George Washington University, at Georgetown University, and at American University, bringing those March for Our Lives chapters together and helping us to work towards similar action. things like this, where we can bring lots of students and make a real impact together.
And March for Our Lives, you march, but you also do a lot of lobbying and congressional interface. What can you tell people about that?
You know, citizen lobbying is one of the most important things that you can do. Speaking to your representatives by phone, by letter, and even coming right here like we are with all these students to talk to our representatives and show them that we actually care means that they know that you will vote on this issue in the future and they'll act on this issue. It makes it impactful for them.
Well, so there's a lot of research, political science research, medical research, about the extent to which some very basic checks and balances here would prevent a lot of these massacres. Why do you think Republicans in particular are so intransigent here?
You know, I definitely think this is a bipartisan issue. Members of March for Our Lives GW, I know, are also associated with the Republican Party. It's a bipartisan issue that everyone can come together on. I grew up in Colorado as a gun owner myself, and it's not an issue that needs to be divisive. I think that some within both parties are funded by the NRA and are supported by that money and by that support. And for those reasons, they don't see a way to support common sense regulations like background checks, which is truly unfortunate because, as you say, they could save lives, real lives in America today.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. I like that you point out you can be a gun owner and be in favor of some very basic safety precautions.
Absolutely. Yeah, my family back in Colorado, it's the culture at the time to go out and hunt. I don't anymore. I have moved away from that. But that's how I grew up, and I was when I first started doing activism. It's not something that divides you or pushes you apart. You know, a great group within that I've been working with recently is Gun Owners for Action, who are working in this exact area, doing this exact work, even though they own guns.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all of you being here. So if you're just joining us now, we have about 200 students behind me, most high school students, but a lot of college students as well. And those numbers are only growing. Police officers have told us only 75 to 80 will be allowed into the hearing, but it's likely a lot of these students will stay in solidarity, showing their support for basic gun safety being legislated and protected here. Again, we're in the Rayburn House office building, and this is going to be a meeting of the House Judiciary Committee. If you're watching at home, now is definitely the time to contact your member of Congress by internet, phone, whatever. That's what these students are doing. So you're here with Moms Demands Action. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Joanne Russell. I'm a District of Columbia resident for 30 years.
So what brings you out today?
Every time I hear something about stopping the gun violence in the country, I come. I'm not working right now, and even when I was, I just come, and I want to be counted as one who know more. The number of people and children who are killed by gun violence in D.C. and around the country needs to stop. And so I'm just going to come. I hope it helps.
Thank you so much. And as a
line right here, we're going to start walking up slowly, just a few feet. So make sure you get in single file line. We are not going to let people in unless it's single file.
Please, everyone, there were kids here waiting at 7 a.m. If you weren't here early and in line at 7 a.m., please do not cut, because there are students waiting here very early this morning. Please be respectful to those around you.
All right. Maddie, you are the
people are showing up. Most of these students have been here since 7 a.m., but again, the numbers have swelling almost doubled, and it doesn't look like anyone's going here anywhere. People are here to say we need very basic cautionary protections and background checks when it comes to gun ownership, specifically more aggressive forms of assault rifle.
My name's Eve Levinson. I'm a regional director for March for Our Lives, and I'm also one of the leaders of the local DC chapter.
Are you a student?
Yes, I'm a freshman at George Washington University.
So this is a meeting of the House Judiciary Committee. What are people doing here today?
So what we are really trying to do is we got a really large number of young people here to really show that we're at the forefront of the gun violence prevention movement and why we care so much about it. We are so happy that the House is finally holding this hearing, and we hope that this is an indicator of more focus on common sense gun reform and the passage of HR 8 in addition to other common sense gun reform.
And so a lot of the students here are high school, college students, correct? How do you think the young people of this country can serve as a model for our older, more complacent citizens?
I think if you look around, you can see that our generation is so passionate about this. We care so much, and I would hope that we can really sort of set the way for the rest of the country. I think a lot of times we hear a lot as young people about how, oh, you're the future, but like look around here, like we are going to be filling that hearing room, like the young people, like we are the present, we are leading this, and we want as many people as possible to be joining us, to be calling your representatives, to be calling your senators, to be voting, to be talking about this issue, because we need everybody if we have any hope of solving gun violence.
Thank you so much. Do you want to...
If you're in DC, try to make a meeting here. As a constituent, that's your right, and you can come in and do that.
Thank you so much, Eve. All right. So for those just joining us, we are in the House Rayburn office building in front of the room where the Judiciary Committee is about to meet to discuss a bill about comprehensive background checks when it comes to gun violence. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're here?
Yeah. So my name is Robert Shentrub. I lost my sister Carmen Shentrub at the Parkland shooting on Valentine's Day last year, and I'm here in support of my friend Alea Eastman, who's going to be testifying today as part of the hearings. And I'm here to show her our support, and then we stand with her when she testifies about her experience today.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really sorry about that. There are hundreds of people here. Why these tragedies are so widespread at this point? Why do you think it's taking so long for our governing body to respond to this appropriately?
I mean, we see that with a lot of instances, the government is very slow to react, but with this one especially so. But I think that with the new gun safety majority that we see in Congress, we're starting to have action on this issue. And why it's taken so long, I have no idea. But I'm glad that we are able to have this and that we are continuing this conversation around gun violence prevention today at this hearing.
Well, And no one's trying to take anyone's guns away, correct?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think that some of the wording that's been used in the past, led people to believe that, but that's not what we're trying to do. We want to make sure that responsible gun owners are the ones with the weapons, not those who wish to commit harm or anything like that.
Well, and studies have shown that if you have a history of domestic violence, violence against animals, you're just going to continue to be violent, right? So why should these people own guns?
Well, so I think that's what we're looking at. When looking at people with patterns of violence, we want to make sure that we're doing our due process and we're really looking hard at these people. But if you've committed a violent act like domestic violence, for instance, you are exponentially more likely to commit violence again against someone else and potentially harm someone. And so a lot of people, a lot of academics really think that is something that should prohibit someone from ownership of a firearm for a period of about 10 years to see if they've really shown improvement, that they are trying to change. And if they haven't, we take a further look about their ability to own a weapon responsibly and safely.
Thank you so much for explaining that. And what would you tell people who want to get involved?
I would tell them to check out our website, teamenough.org. If you're a young person who wants to get involved around gun violence prevention and really get involved at the both state and national level in organizing around a lot of these common sense policies, that's a great way to get involved. And other organizations here, March for Our Lives and GIFT and Brady, we all are working to find common sense and evidence-based solutions to this epidemic of gun violence that we're seeing, and that's a great way to get involved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, when we're talking about evidence-based solutions, there really is just an overwhelming amount of academic research and support for the idea that there are certain people who just shouldn't necessarily have access to weapons, and that many of these thousands and thousands of deaths by gun that we experience in this country are entirely preventable.
Came up with the hashtag, this is my leg. This is an amazing man and an amazing
It's getting incredibly crowded in here, and it was crowded to begin with. Again, for those just joining us, we are in the Capitol office buildings of Rayburn, where the House Judiciary Committee will be meeting to discuss gun reform and gun safety measures. As most of these high school and college students organized by March for Our Lives have been here since 7 a.m. At this point, we now have hundreds of people, and more keep coming.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't appear on camera. My probation officer says. Oh. Sure, yes, totally. I can.
I mean, hey, there are some great people. Phil, we have an interview.
Because I only packed for 24 hours. I have to go in like a split second.
Oh, I know. Can you just quickly tell us who you are and why you're here?
My name is Cameron Marley Caskey. I'm a former member of Stoneman Douglas High School's theater department, and I'm here to watch this lovely House judiciary hearing for the first time in 8 years on gun violence. And it's really nice to see that we have a House that's willing to address this problem for what it is.
And for all your organizing, you think that you wonderful young people are why maybe they're taking this a little bit more seriously now?
Well, I think a lot of young people showed up at the polls this year, and that's why we have a House that's willing to address this issue. So absolutely, seeing everybody out here getting excited about a judiciary hearing, that's amazing. I'm so sorry, I'm getting pulled in.
Of course, understood. It looks like the students are being led into the Judiciary Committee hearing. Again, there will probably only be about 75 to 80 seats, leaving many others to stand outside in solidarity with their friends and fellow organizers.
Can I have your attention for a moment? Judiciary Committee attendees and folks from other hearings, just hang tight for a second. Thank you. We're going to open the doors and let in the general public in about 10 minutes. About 10 minutes, we're going to let folks in maybe a little bit sooner than that. We're all going to follow through this one door here. General public seating will start in the third row. At this time, just to make sure you're squared away, I ask that you silence your cell phone. You are allowed to take photos during the hearing. No flash, no video. Try to get the hearing will be recorded so you can watch no video after the fact on our website. Please, no video. We'll stop you or try to videos again.
As I said, I'm so moved by have to hide under desks. Our children shouldn't have to, have gun drills in schools and in classrooms. And you want to build a wall? America's about tearing down walls, not building them. If you want to build, let's build the educational system. Let's, pull down the infrastructure of the NRA and stop the senseless killings in our neighborhoods and have background checks nationwide. We just passed in California, you have to be 21 years old now to buy a gun,
Which seems really reasonable, right?
You have to drink at 21, so why shouldn't you have a 16-year-old should not be able to go inside of a store and purchase a weapon, an automatic weapon, without some kind of background check, or anyone for that matter, So we're here today representing the Brady campaign and representing every child that's out there that's going to school today to say no more, to represent those parents who, like me, like her, who are grieving every day. It doesn't matter when you lost your child, the pain never goes away. And this is about all of us and none of us. We must stop the killing and start the healing. President Trump talked about being one nation under God. Well, we're not that nation yet. But today, with all these people here today at this hearing, we're striving to be that one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, so that you and I can walk the streets safely, go to the movies safely. Our kids don't have to hide under desks. People can go to church and not worry about getting gunned down at a prayer meeting or in a synagogue.
It's really insane. The places that these violent acts are occurring are the places that you're supposed to feel the most safe.
Yes.
My son was gunned down at home. At home. The guy came in with a concealed weapon. He was released from PG County Jail, and within 7 days, my son was shot. He was murdered. He was assassinated. No parent should have to bury their child. It's supposed to be the other way around. Our children, our young men had futures. Those futures were snapped from them. But they're with Jesus now, and we know we're going to be reunited with them. And God is the final judge. So they need to be very careful. They need to be very careful. Even the NRA, because thou shalt not kill. A gun is only used to kill. When you go hunting, you're killing an animal. Are you killing the animal to eat it, or are you killing it as a trophy? Which one is it? Are you killing it to protect yourself, or are you killing it for vanity reasons?
And in this nation today, we're the most violent nation on the planet right now, and it's so sad because other nations looked up to us. Other nations respected us for all the freedoms that we have, but it doesn't feel like freedom today. It feels like we're all incarcerated due to gun violence. He's talking about building a wall. There's already a wall up. that he can't even see.
Well, and neither of you should have ever had to experience this. And these teenagers, it looks like mostly teenagers, should not have to live in fear of that happening to them.
Exactly. And you know, if I can say the beauty is
get you Matt right here. She's a senior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and she's going to be testifying today. Can we just give her a round of applause? She was up until midnight last night working on her testimony. So please, give her love when you see her, encourage her. She's worked really hard on this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go get him. Guys, we're just about, we're down to maybe 1 or 2 people getting in. So if you're maybe in the next 3 or 4 people, you might want to try. If you're not, you should probably go up to the overflow.
Okay. For those just joining us, we are at the House Rayburn office building where the House Judiciary Committee is about to commence discussing matters of gun safety and gun reform. As you can probably see, we have hundreds of students here, many organized by March for Our Lives, but there are a lot of other organizations here too. Moms Demand Action, the Brady Campaign. We have so many people here waiting to stand in solidarity for some very basic safety measures that have been avoided for way too long. Only 75 to 80 people are going to be allowed in the meeting, but as you can tell, there are far, far, far more here who are going to stand and wait for their friends and hear how things go. So just some basic information around this issue. Every day, 100 Americans are killed with guns. There has been a lot of publicity around the simply horrific school shootings that have been popping up with alarming frequency. But there are other ways this issue affects us. 85% of suicide attempts by gun succeed. this is in comparison to most suicide attempts, which do not. And individuals who have attempted usually report regretting the attempt and seeking the help they need. But gun suicides are one of the top forms of death for white men in America. Children are the second leading cause of death for children in America is a gun death, and frequently these are unintentional. Guns which are not safely held are found by children. Many children are killed in domestic violent adjacent crimes. This is a public health crisis that in this country we've too long accepted as normative and unavoidable, but the reality is very few developed countries deal with this. We have the number one leading gun violence in the free world.
Maggie Corbin, and I'm a junior in high school.
So, are you a resident of DC? What brings you out here?
I actually live in Fairfax, Virginia, and I'm part of my local Students Demand Action group.
What about this specific issue has so many young people out here, do you think?
I think that it's something that a lot of us aren't affected by, but it's kind of like present in our lives. Like as students, that's always a threat of gun violence. And I think we want to like help other people and like use our voices to help those who don't have one.
Well, because a lot of these incidents have been school shootings, but a lot of them have been other places too, right?
Yeah. So, like being so close to DC, there's a lot of gun violence in like inner city communities, and
yeah, and it's really interesting how the argument is made. Well, violence is going to occur regardless, but we know that's not true, right? The easier it is to access guns, the more gun violence there is.
I agree, and violence is going to happen, like that's true, but we shouldn't make it easier for it to happen. So I think that by putting laws and restrictions in place, it isn't going to hurt.
Thank you so much. Introduce yourself. We're coming to you from inside the House Committee meeting room where the Judiciary Committee will be convening very shortly to discuss matters of gun control. As you can see, the March for Our Lives students are a big presence here.
All right.
I'll try to just ask her real quick what she's saying.
Hi, you're about to be testifying. Is there anything you want to tell our viewers?
To watch and pay attention.
Awesome. How can people get involved and help?
I'm sorry, I'm not like prepared for an interview.
No, I totally understand.
But you can spend where's that?
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
So as you can see, a large number of students are here to watch and support their colleagues and fellow activists. One of our earlier student organizers pointed out that it is due to a great amount of effort and organizing that we have a Congress which is now willing to address this incredibly dangerous issue of gun violence in America. For Our Lives DC?
Yes, I'm the communications director for March for Our Lives DC.
Okay, are you a student?
Yes, March at GW University.
Awesome. So, what can you tell us about March for Our Lives DC?
So March for Our Lives DC is helping to bring together the student groups at George Washington University, at Georgetown University, and at American University, bringing those March for Our Lives chapters together and helping us to work towards similar action. Things like this, where we can bring lots of students and make a real impact together.
And March for Our Lives, you march, but you also do a lot of lobbying and congressional interface. What can you tell people about that?
You know, citizen lobbying is one of the most important things that you can do, speaking to your representatives by phone, by letter, and even coming right here like we are with all these students to talk to our representatives and show them that we actually care means that they know that you will vote on this issue in the future and they'll act on this issue. It makes it impactful for them.
Well, so there's a lot of research, political science research, medical research, about the extent to which some very basic checks and balances here would prevent a lot of these massacres. Why do you think Republicans in particular are so intransigent here?
You know, I definitely think this is a bipartisan issue. Members of March for Our Lives GW,
Congresswoman, what can you tell us about what's going on here
with the Republican Party? It's a bipartisan issue that everyone can come together on. I grew up in Colorado as a gun owner myself, and it's not
started Kids Off the Block, so I'm very happy that after 8 years we're finally going to have a hearing on gun violence prevention. You know, I've been here 6 years and we've done nothing as far as gun violence prevention, so I'm glad that this is a new day.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And why has there been this intransigence around this issue?
You have to ask Speaker Boehner and then Speaker Ryan, because they've held it back, and I don't believe the president has pushed it either. And you can ask the NRA. They have something to do with it too.
What can you tell people about how to get involved and support in this issue?
People need to contact their legislators on every level of government, depending on what state you're in. And we need people that have family, friends in red states to contact those legislators. And especially when we get H.R. 8 passed out, we need to do more than H.R. 8, universal background checks. I'd like to see federal trafficking, straw purchasing bills. We have a bill for the Surgeon General to do a report on the impact of guns every year, just like we did with cigarettes and smoking, and then things really started to change, money behind research. But when it gets to the Senate, we really need people to push the Senate and Mitch McConnell to call the bill.
Well, it is a public health issue, much like smoking.
Oh, definitely it's a public health issue, and that's why we're trying to engage the Surgeon General in this piece of legislation.
Thank you.
Would you mind taking a quick photo with the March for Our Lives?
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. So again, for those just joining us, we're at the Rayburn office building in the House of Representatives on Capitol Hill. Hey, Phil, AOC.
I'm going to walk over there. I'll be right back.
Not right this second, but...
Wait, hold on. Can you guys back up? Oh. Can you guys back up? Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Weird. All right.
Thank you.
That looks good.
All right. Ready, guys? Squeeze in.
We've been joined by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, surrounded by the March for Our Lives organizers. Congresswoman, what can you say to support the students for March for Our Lives?
You know, I think it's amazing that they're in there. Just bust into that room, keep the pressure up, because just their presence really changes a lot of people's hearts and minds.
Thank you so much. So it sounds like the Judiciary Committee is about to convene. As you can see, we have all these wonderful students, activists, citizens here to support basic background checks for gun owners. This is really just a very basic first step. Nobody's trying to take anyone's guns away. If you're watching at home, please contact your members of Congress. As a Congresswoman stated earlier, it's truly absurd that given the amount of gun violence in this country, it's taken 8 years for this hearing to happen. So contact your representatives, stay involved, and thank you so much for being with us today.